Geoff, thank you for talking to me. Let's start where you were born.
Born in Fielding, in the Manor 2.
And where did you go to school?
Fielding Agricultural High School.
So local?
Yeah, local boy.
Farming area, were parents farmers?
No, they weren't farmers. Dad was a painter paper hanger and Mum was a legal secretary.
And when did you leave school?
15.
And when did you go there?
I went up to the Hawke's Bay and lived in Napier.
Brothers and sisters?
Yep, I got one brother, older than me. There were two sisters. One sister passed away, older than me as well. So living, I got a brother and a sister.
So when you left home, you were 15?
Yep.
They were, one of them still at home?
No, I was the youngest. I was the baby of the family. So.
And why did you leave home so young?
Well, interesting. My father thought it was time for me to leave, so he decided to say that's enough is enough, and so he sent me on my way. So I jumped on my motorbike and went up to Napier. So that was my beginning of my working life.
What was your first job there?
So I started as a commercial fisherman, mainly netting flounders on a trawler. We also did set netting, so we'd go out for a week at a time. But yeah, that's what I started. Did that for about a year.
And did you stop because you didn't enjoy it, or?
No, I had a really good friend up there, and he had a motorbike accident. He was a farmer, and the farmer that he was working for was in his really busy time, so my friend was in a hospital, so I took over his role just to help the farmer out. It was about 3 months, and I actually really enjoyed the work, and that kind of got me into a farming career from there.
How long were you doing that for?
Oh, Richard. So I did that, and then I did a thing called a farm cadetship, which is basically it's like a tertiary, but you work on farms and you just do study at night. And I did that, and there was a farm cadetship course was 3 years, and then I did management after that for maybe 2 years. Yeah, so about that, about 5-6 years, something like that.
So after the management course, did you go back to farming?
No, so when I was with the management role, I moved to different types of farms, and then I was just what I loved about farming was shepherding. I was a shepherd initially. Loved the job. It was my best job I've ever had in my life. You're riding horses, you had a team of dogs, and out in the outbacks, and I absolutely loved it. But I was getting paid $65 a week. And because I was always quite an ambitious person, I wasn't going to buy a farm through that. So what I had to do was change over into dairy farming, which basically killed me because it's mundane type work, getting up early, milking cows, day in, day out, 7 days a week, and so you never really had a weekend. And I think I did that for about 4 years, and that just kind of burnt me out with the farming. I was always intending to go through share milking and then buy my own and go back to being a beef and sheep, a sheep farmer. But that never happened, and so after that 4 or 5 years as a dairy farmer, I had enough of working 7 days a week, and there was a farmers mutual insurance company, and they placed an ad for a manager's role, and I applied for that and got it. So I ended up going from farming to being in insurance. So.
And you stayed in insurance for a while?
Yeah, all up probably about 5 years or so. Yeah.
And that was around the time you met your wife?
Yeah, I met my wife. So I was farming. So I went into the insurance company around 2021. And met my wife, maybe 22 it was, and met my wife Mandy, who was 20 at the time. That's right.
And how did you get from there? Where were you in insurance at the time?
So I was in Palmerston North. So there was Farmers Mutual. I was based in Palmerston North as head office there, And Mandy, my wife, had just was working for a company called Glaxo Pharmaceutical, which was based in Palmerston North, and her company relocated up to Auckland, and they offered us a package to go up, and because we had no kids, and we just thought it was a good opportunity for us to go to the big smoke for us, and we decided to, so we moved up to Auckland under that package. Mandy had her job, and I found another new job with the insurance company, AMP.
So you didn't have any kids then? You've
No.
got 2 kids now?
Yep, 2 kids now, 18 and 16.
So you left AMP in Auckland and set up your own business?
Yep, so what happened is, again, that was a good job. I was based in Parnell, but anyway, I won't bore you with the full story, but the whole management team at AMP got made redundant, and we had the options of either taking a redundancy package or reapplying for roles. I ended up taking the redundancy package, and my wife agreed for me to go out and start a business venture that I'd been thinking about. So so I started up a trade show. It was a sports trade show, and how that all came about is that I was a little bit restless at AMP anyway, and I was looking for a new business, and I've always loved sports, so I was looking at sports to get into, a sports field or whatever. So I thought I'll go to the local sports trade show in New Zealand, and found out there was not one. So I thought, well, maybe I should start a trade show, and that's how that whole thing came about. And had no idea, I'd never done a trade show, and so from that idea I developed this rather big show in Auckland. I did it all by myself. I didn't realise, it was not until later other companies that do that, they have like about a team of 10 people that do these things. I did the whole thing by myself. I did the selling, organising the whole boxing dice, and we had 6 halls all up, I think, over 250 exhibitors, so did the whole marketing boxing dice. So I started that from scratch, and ran 3 shows, and they were really quite successful. Hard work, my God, it was hard work, but I did that for 3 years. So, and then the company I bought we're an exhibitor at the show.
So you left AMP,
Mm-hmm.
not because you necessarily wanted to start a trade show, but because you wanted to work for yourself?
Yes.
You always wanted to work for yourself?
Pretty much, yeah. Well, as farming, when I was farming, I wanted to own my own farm. So, and that didn't happen. And then, I was always a little restless working for other people. I was a good employee, but it was not for me. I just didn't like the politics and being told what to do, and doing it their way instead of the way I'd like to do it. And,
so you like the freedoms of making your own decisions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your siblings, you keep in touch with them?
Yes, particularly my older sister. We generally catch up once a month or so.
Is she like-minded? Does she work for herself?
No, she's a nurse, so she's got a medical background. Her husband's a vet, and their son's a doctor. So,
and your wife, did she leave Glaxo in the end, or?
So we relocated up to Auckland, and she worked until we had Taylor, who was 18, and then she was basically a full-time mum after that. So she might have been, I'm losing track of dates here.
Mm-hmm.
Might have been a few years after we came to Auckland, and then she gave up her work, and the show had succeeded at that stage. And then I bought the business, and then we had Taylor, and she gave up work I gave up work at that stage. Yeah.
So the business you bought was Splash?
That's right.
And they were an exhibitor at the show that you set up?
Yep.
And you've been with Splash ever since?
Yep, so for 19 years, last 19 years, yeah.
Cool. How has that changed in the last 19 years?
Oh, wow. I'd say it's like any industry. It's it's certainly gone through its ups and downs, and it was very popular when I first took it on. There was a lot of competition, but all our competitors were very successful. We all were making good money, and there was lots of margin involved in it. And then I think the internet came along, and it kind of started to unravel things. What I initially saw is that the international big websites were starting to take business because consumers were getting clued on that they could buy dive equipment at much cheaper prices overseas. So we saw a rash of new products coming into the marketplace, and because we were like a traditional wholesale, so we'd import, put a healthy margin on the product and sell it to a shop who would put even a bigger margin on it, and so we had these really inflated prices on products. And the clever consumer with the internet worked out quickly that he could buy it from overseas international sites, and they started to import it, and we saw a big influx of that. So that was probably the first big change that I noticed. And so we adapted to that. We came out with our Splash website around that time, so that's about 12, 14 years ago. And in those days it was a totally different type of website. You had your own programmer who would write it in his own language, and it was crazy stuff. So that was the first big change. And then the government, it's interesting, a couple of the major big changes happened. The government brought in these student approved loan type schemes, and so unfortunately our industry went through an interesting phase where we all the dive shops, the retail shops, started becoming educational facilities, and they would train unemployed people to become dive instructors. And there would be like a $10,000 loan or $8,000 loan that they would get paid, and even if these students never turned up to the course, they would receive this money. So it was like a big windfall for them. And so, because it was such good money for the shops, they put all the energies into that. And so the traditional dive market of learning to dive got put on the back burner, and they put all their energy into running these courses. And you'd have most of the shops were doing somewhere between 50 to 150 students a year, making big money, and their traditional business they just left alone. And then obviously a lot of these people were getting trained and they weren't getting jobs, so the government started saying, hey, we're putting all this money into it, there's not many outcomes going, and so they started putting in tighter and tighter controls. So, and that's when a lot of the shops really struggled, because they'd had it, I suppose, kind of easy in the way that they've been doing it, and they struggled to go back to the old hard way of doing business. So that was a big change. And then to really hit the nail on the head, 5 years ago, WorkSafe starting putting in more regulations for safety, and it was after like the balloon accident down in Masterton, and they brought it aboard. And so basically now, you pretty well our shop needs a full-time person just to manage the compliance. So it's got more and more difficult, and these little small businesses are just come too much pressure to do training. So we've gone from, I think, somewhere over 100 training facilities in New Zealand to probably under 30 now. But then, I could talk all day, but then the other thing is, on the upside of things is spearfishing has grown significantly over the 10 years. When I first started the industry, spearfishing would have been about 10% of our sales. Now I would say it's somewhere like about 60 to 70% of our sales.
So you personally, you keep fit by spearfishing, or?
I suppose I've always been a sporty guy. And I went to the gym regularly, get myself fit, join that, and then I got into tennis. I can't remember how long ago, 10 to 12 years ago. I used to always play a bit of tennis as a youngster, and then got involved in the local club, and I played reasonably well, and so I keep just progressing up the grade, and so I just got more and more serious into tennis and started training more and more for it, and so basically that's what I do.
Cool. So you have a young family.
Mm-hmm.
Son's about to go
To university, yep.
to university. And you've recently had a few fairly major health problems.
Yeah, so what's it now? Well, it's about this time last year, February last year, I was playing tennis one day and I noticed my breathing was really, I actually felt like I had indigestion, not that I really had much indigestion, but I played this whole day of tennis and I could hardly breathe. After each point I'd have to stop and have a big break just to recapture. And I knew something wasn't right. I was really struggling to breathe. And so I went to the doctor pretty well straight after that, and he recommended me to a cardiologist. Went to a cardiologist. This was the short version of it all. The cardiologist did all the stress tests and the whole box and dice, and it all came through fine. But talking to the cardiologist, who's actually my next door neighbour, said, I don't like the sounds of your symptoms, Geoff, and I think we need to get an angiogram done. That's where they put a camera up through you, put dye, and so they, so I did that about, I think, 2 weeks later. So they injected the dye, put the camera up, and I was thinking that maybe I might need to have a stent or something like that, which is narrowing of the arteries, and they just put a little stent in there to open it up. Unfortunately, the cardiologist looked at it, looked through the camera and saw the dye, and I could tell from his face that it was pretty serious, and basically in his polite English he said that, Geoff, you've got a few problems. So he said basically I'm going to have a bypass. I had 80% of my arteries all blocked up, and I think he told me at the time I said, oh, can you do a stent? And he says, well, if we can put a stent in, Geoff, we're going to have to do something like about 23 of them. So that pretty well explains how bad you were, so not how bad you are. So, young man, we're off to the hospital with you, and we're going to have to cut open your chest and rip some veins out of your legs, and we're going to do a bypass. And so that happened May of last year. So that came out of left field, and that was probably the hardest thing that's happened to me in my life, just because I've been so fit all my life, and always eaten really well and looked after myself. So you kind of think, you're never going to have these types of issues. So you think it's going to be the overweight people that smoke and have all the issues that are going to have it. And that was the kind of like really interesting thing for me, because I was so serious they wouldn't let me out of hospital. So I was in hospital for about a month before the operation, and so I heard stories like mine every day, and you'd see guys in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s, really healthy guys. There was triathletes and all sorts of people like that. All of them either had like an artery problem like me, or they had a valve problem with the heart, and so you start seeing from all their stories that it's a pretty common issue that we have. So yeah.
And it's in your genetics, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
the arteries were a problem.
Yeah, so like all my life I've always strived to be in the top 1%, and the only thing I've actually achieved in the top 1% is having a thing with extremely high levels of cholesterol. I'm in the top 1% in the world for my cholesterol levels. So it's a genetic fault. It's not actually in the family. It was just for whatever. It could have been my grandfather who died young. I picked up some type of genetic flaw in my cholesterol levels, so I had like about 3 to 4 times higher than the normal man cholesterol.
But it was very serious. I mean, you actually had a heart attack when you were in hospital, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I did have a heart attack, technical heart attack. So, but it was not like the traditional one. So it was you just felt really bad under the, you knew you just weren't feeling that great, and you wake up in the morning and says, by the way, Mr. Burne, you've had a heart attack. So, oh, okay. And again, that's quite the dramatic die of a heart attack is, they obviously do have it, but the majority of them are more that type of symptoms that you just feel unwell, and, you just don't quite feel the same, and you've had a heart attack. So.
And now?
Yeah, no, so it's, again, really hard process, like physically, takes 3 months to recover from it, you know. So, you know, like I've got a wired up chest now, and it's always going to be wired up, so I feel a bit stiff moving around here. But so it's almost 9 months, and I feel like I'm pretty well back to normal health, if you like. But I talked to a surgeon friend of mine, and he told me that the body doesn't like getting opened up, and give yourself a good year to 2 years to get over this. And he was talking about the mentalness of it, and I think he's 100% right, because you always keep in your mind. You've got a young mind. You always think back to the sporting field, what you can do, and your mind never aged. Gets a bit fuzzy, but it doesn't really age. But your body starts to fall apart, and your mind still thinks you're young. So it's catching up and realising that, hey, you're a little bit older now, and these things happen for a reason. And yeah.
So you think you're reaching a point where you might want to just slow down and relax a bit?
Yeah, definitely. I've been doing that for a little while now, Richard. So like I've always been a real ambitious go-getter type person. So. But yeah, you have events like this, and I actually kind of like semi-retired a few years back. I had a couple of years off from work. I was just doing a bit of part-time work, and I actually played a senior tennis circuit. And just loved it. It was probably the best time of my life that I've had prior to the heart problem and all that. And I realised at that time, that was me. I really wanted to move on and do some other things. But then unfortunately I got pulled back into the business, and so I've been back in the business now for 3 years. So and I think it's it's time that I need to move on. But unfortunately, you have lots of obligations. You've got mortgages and property commitments, staff, the whole books and dice. Children going off to universities, all those types of expenses that adds to the burden of a father's life, that you've got to maintain that. But I definitely need to make some changes in my life, so hopefully I can.
Well, it's good to see you looking so healthy.
Yeah, thank you.
Geoff, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Richard.